What is up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. I wanted to touch base today just very briefly on a couple of things that I've seen over the past couple of days here. But first and foremost, I wanted to go over the valuation and the price currently that Bitcoin sits at, which is $15,612 approximately. And I do not personally hold Bitcoin. That could end up being a huge mistake for me. I just really believe that we're going to see digital assets with utility usurp Bitcoin in the future. That is not to say that you investing in Bitcoin is a bad idea whatsoever. I do believe Bitcoin is going to break all-time high. I do believe Bitcoin is going to go to much higher valuations. I personally just believe, based on my personal investment strategy and my choices, that hopefully the digital assets that I have invested in have enough utility to represent more gains for me in the future than Bitcoin will. And a lot of people do say it's always a good idea to hold a small amount of Bitcoin. I was a very big advocate of that for a very long time. I've kind of moved away from that thought. However, that's not to say that it's not going to go up in value. And there are going to be people, if you have enough capital backing you, when Bitcoin does a 4 or 5 or a 6x from where it's at right now, and this is not financial advice whatsoever, that's going to make you life-changing money. Now, if you don't have that capital, and you're trying to invest in utility-based assets that could potentially do 100x's or whatever, as far as their valuations are concerned, you may make some different moves. I made the decision 2 or 3 years ago. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. My decision personally, based on my financial status, and this is not advice to you, this is just my situation, was, I could either buy a Bitcoin or I could start diversifying a little bit. And, Bitcoin is a hedge in this marketplace. When things crash, if you can imagine, if you would have just held Bitcoin instead of some of the other altcoins out there, you would have probably been way better off than just holding onto the altcoins during the bear run, the bear market. However, it's very interesting to see what's happening right now. And again, none of this is advice to you. I'm just telling you my opinion, and you take with it and you do with it what you want. And we're going to go into some news here in a second that is Ripple, XRP related, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, we can see Bitcoin, $15,612 or whatever based on Google, 15,465 or whatever it's sitting at right now, 15,667 right now, I apologize. But we have not seen these levels since, really, you're looking later in December, early January of 2018, late December 2017. And if you weren't around for that time frame, a lot of things took off after Bitcoin hit a certain number and then started consolidating a little bit. And it really happened during these little correction phases here, if I remember correctly. So we had the mini bull run in May. Bitcoin started correcting down and consolidating a little bit before the next surge, and we saw alts take a run. And we had another one in September, October-ish. I think in October, November, we saw alts run too when we had the what was it, the CFTC, whatever the futures trading commission in Chicago or whatever announced futures for Bitcoin. We saw altcoins run after that too. It's going to be very interesting what happens here, because if you look, and this again is not financial advice whatsoever. I'm not a technical analyst whatsoever. I don't chart, but I do know that you look left, and I do know that previous returns also don't indicate future performance, but there's some data that we can actually look at here. Now, we can see that we are about to almost do a double bottom here from the XRP BTC chart, from a stats perspective, and not too far off, almost right there now. And we saw what happened the previous time. Actually, we were a little higher than double bottoming last time before we went on a surge. But, you pay attention to the chart analysis, whatever, that's fine. I don't do it. I just know that, from what I've seen, there's a lot of commentary that has been consistently wrong on TradingView for the past 2 years. But a lot of people are saying kind of the same thing. I never look at XRP USD price. I always look at XRP BTC price, just because I believe that BTC still drives this market from a speculative standpoint at this point in time. All right, now moving on here. I want to get into some of the actual research that I've done over the past couple of days. Data 443, if you were not aware, they basically have this leading data transport product, Data Express, multiple Fortune 50 clients are on this, utilizing this software as a service format, and this updated Data Express is going to be available to all of them. But if you are not aware, Data 443 also manages Classy Docs, the company's award-winning data classification and governance technology, which supports CCPA, LGPD, and GDPR. GDPR is the big one in my opinion. Classy Docs for blockchain, which provides an active implementation for Ripple's XRP that protects blockchain transactions from inadvertent disclosures and data leaks. And this is in every announcement that Data 443 puts out. I've been monitoring this for the past year or so. They're obviously quite a large, or I don't want to say large, but an important organization from a tech standpoint, a software integration standpoint, Fortune 50 companies across the board. Just very interesting that in every release that they have, they're talking about this Classy Docs for blockchain. And my opinion, or my understanding, is this GDPR compliance. They basically operate like a WordPress version of that. And a lot of organizations use that. A lot of organizations that are smaller organizations use that as well. And they run an active implementation. I'm assuming this is on the XRP ledger. So interesting stuff there. Tech Mahindra and SubX partner to drive scale adoption of blockchain-based solution for telecoms companies. And this, I looked into SubX today, or Subex, however you want to pronounce that. Very much so tied into Hyperledger. Tech Mahindra, we do know, has lots of integrations with blockchain. They've partnered with a number of fintechs and key niche players in this space, such as Ripple, SkuChain, which is R3, I believe, ChainNet, AlphaPoint, etc. I think this Tech Mahindra document is probably from like 2018, but they are a large organization if you're not aware, and they've been launching multiple blockchain initiatives over the past couple of years. So I'm paying attention to that as well. We've got Eddie Yu, a keynote speech. He is the chief executive of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority at the Hong Kong FinTech Week 2020. Now, if you are not aware, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority has very much so delved into blockchain and digital assets, cross-border payments, etc., etc. This speech was just from 3 days ago, and I found the verbiage very interesting in this. They have already developed a proof of concept prototype. This is for addressing pain points in cross-border payments that enables real-time cross-border funds transfer on a peer-to-peer basis. In the next phase, they are exploring business use cases such as cross-border trade settlement and capital market transactions. We will soon bring banks and large corporates into trials to test the network using actual trade transactions. Now, what this proof of concept prototype they are talking about here, in my opinion, is this Intheon Lion Rock. I posted about this. There were documents that came out last year. We've got the Bank of Thailand. We've got the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. Leveraging distributed ledger technology to increase efficiency in cross-border payments. And they very much so have a roadmap here too. Intheon Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. And we can see here, right, and in the last phase, overall central bank digital currency evaluation as a payment system. Every single nation in the entire world is going to have a CBDC system put into place. What I've seen very much so is you have a few different key tech integrators that are working with these organizations. Now, Intheon Lion Rock, if you are not aware, or maybe I'm saying that, yeah, Intheon Lion Rock is very much so tied into R3. But I just talked about Tech Mahindra, a very big organization. They are very much so tied in with Hyperledger. We saw that they were tied in with Ripple as well. Now, Hong Kong Monetary Authority has also mentioned Ripple multiple times. Interestingly enough, they mentioned back in 2017, Ripple. DLT is a concept with multiple variations. From a distance, Bitcoin, Ethereum, R3, and Ripple are all built on DLT. So one is tempted to generalize. We know that you can't generalize in this space, but a lot of these initiatives are going to interoperate. And we can see that the Hong Kong Monetary Authority specifically collaborated with the Monetary Authority of Singapore, who is very much so a Ripple partner, to link the two markets via distributed ledger technology and develop an interface using blockchain to facilitate cross-border payments for business-to-business trade between the two markets. Now, Intheon Lion Rock is very much so tied in with R3. R3 is their technology provider for this initiative, if I am not mistaken. So it's going to be interesting to see how it, and it's crazy because it's almost like it seems like they're building up these they're updating the legacy system, but also building walled gardens. But we know that inherently that is not the case. I mean, it is the case. They are building walled gardens between these individual tech providers from a blockchain standpoint. However, there are going to be interoperability measures that are going to be taking place to interface between these two. I mean, you can even see Interledger Protocol, I believe, tied in with the Java version of Hyperledger, I believe. So, I mean, you've got all of these different initiatives taking place to make sure that these systems are all talking. These banks and these legacy institutions can't do it themselves. So we've got these blockchain tech integrators doing it for them. And the blockchain tech integrators understand very much so that the internet of value is not going to come from an update of a legacy system to create another siloed ecosystem. We need silos to be broken down, at least if not doorways into those silos, but bridgeways to create paths of value and transfer between those walled systems, right? So, and it's only going to get more interoperable as time goes. I mean, that's just the way that things work, okay? Now we've got Ripple Insights here. This is the Q3 2020 XRP Markets Report. This is November 5th, 2020. There are going to be multiple other individuals doing deep dives onto this. You guys know me. I like to stick to multiple different types of news on this channel. But I did want to make you aware that this just came out today. You can go on Ripple's website and you can read through this yourself. Programmatic sales are still down. We know that Ripple has still been buying back XRP from the markets to quote unquote create a healthy marketplace, etc., etc. I'm going to go through this on my own and read it on my own and make my own opinions about it, and you can do the same. But I did want to make you aware, okay, that I saw a lot of the information from Swell is now publicly available. If you were not invited to Swell, you can now access all of this information. This was a few days ago that I saw this. Maybe this happened before, maybe it didn't, whatever. How the US and EU central banks view the future of central bank digital currencies. Now, if you want to go to this, you just go to swell2020.ripple.com. You click on enter here. You can enter your email if you were already a member of Swell. If not, which of course I wasn't, you just enter in, you can even put in bogus names in here. First, last name, business email address, organization name, create a backstory for yourself that isn't real because one doesn't exist based on these options if you're one of us. Country, etc., etc. Then you click submit. You don't even have to wait for a confirmation email. You just get taken right into the Swell presentations here. And there are some interesting ones in here. Central bank digital currencies, driving towards digital. There's some heavy players in this as well. So yeah, I'm not going to play the Pong tournament. Anyways, EnergyWeb joins the Interwork Alliance. This was 2 days ago. I'm paying attention to EnergyWeb because we know that Ripple is essentially integrating the XRPL into EnergyWeb for decarbonization. And they plan to have the XRPL completely decarbonized and XRP the completely carbon-free digital, the first completely free carbon digital asset. I think it's like 2030, but maybe it's 2025. EnergyWeb has their own token, if you were not aware. Interwork Alliance is somewhat big based on what I've seen here. We can see the members at this point, associate members. Let me go down here through the list. I was researching a little earlier. Sponsor members are Accenture, Digital Asset, Microsoft, NGD, SDX, Air Carbon Exchange, blah, blah, blah. Calistone is big. Chainlink we've all heard of, obviously. DLA Piper is big and also a Hashgraph partner. DTCC, we all know with derivatives. ING, we know. Oh, we see Hedera Hashgraph is actually a member of EnergyWeb. I think I presented on that maybe a week or two ago. Kinetic, Liquify, NASDAQ, obviously, R3. Associate members down below here. So I am paying attention to EnergyWeb. I'm paying attention to their token. I haven't personally jumped in yet, but it's something that's very much so on my radar. And anything tied into a blockchain company as massive as Ripple and all these alliances now, and we know from a legacy standpoint, these green initiatives, what they're trying to do with finance. This all ties into that, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry where this is going to go. Now, Interwork Alliance, their actual website, simplifying the digital interchange of value. They tell you right on their main website what they're trying to do. The Interwork Alliance empowers all organizations to adopt and use token-powered services in their day-to-day operations. Well, all of their members include some pretty heavy hitters, you know. Accenture does a lot of major integrations for many of the banks. I believe Bank of England chose them as their tech provider for their renewed real-time gross settlement service. DTCC with derivatives, pretty self-explanatory. Spanish banks lead development of blockchain-based digital ID model. Now, I'm always interested in this because this is based on Alastria. Alastria is very much so tied in with Hyperledger as well. I believe Santander is in this. This project is known as Dalion. And, you know, this is self-managed identity, enables people to have their own personal data in a single digital identity. And it's kind of a creepy picture here. So digital ID, 100% coming. Retina scanning, all that crazy stuff is going to come eventually. But, you know, digital-based ID where you can verify yourself, either fingerprint, retina scanning, whatever. But it's going to start with the mobile craze with our cell phones, et cetera, et cetera. You won't even really need to carry ID. Everything's going to be blockchain-based. Your identity is going to be based on, you know, handled via the blockchain as well. Now, Alastria, talking about Alastria because I just talked about this Spanish banking development of blockchain-based digital ID, which ties in with Alastria. NTT data, and many of you maybe have seen that Everest document about ILP and XRP essentially bridging everything in the entire world. That's fantastic. I am going to stick with this because NTT data is tied in with Alastria, also tied in with Ripple. And I just want to read this one sentence here. I'm going to leave you with these last two things. Top 10. NTT has a strong foothold in Japan and Europe across public and private sector. We've got in Spain, for example, government-backed Alastria Consortium on digital identity, which we just talked about. Now, this is an older slide. This is 2018. But they're telling you right now that Alastria blockchain-based digital ID model through the Spanish government and many of the banks is using Alastria. We know NTT data is tied in with that. 2018, old news doesn't mean anything? Nonsense. Old news always means something, or at least most of the time you can come back and reference it. And the UK NTT data for global payments based on Ripple in the UK, NTT data. You look up NTT data and you see how big that organization is. And that's just another little snippet of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority and Monetary Authority of Singapore. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hey, if you liked the super hypey video that I did yesterday, let me know. I know many of you did, some of you didn't. If you want me to do something like that, maybe on a weekly basis, maybe base it around a general overview of where the blockchain ecosystem, digital asset space is, I can certainly do so. This is kind of more of my bread and butter though, ladies and gents, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't, that's fine. Don't watch. And I hope you have a fantastic evening. If there's news tomorrow, I will certainly present it. All right? Later.